We usually think of our brains as like a high-end calculator.
Right.
You punch in the numbers, the costs, the benefits, the pros, the cons of any given situation, and out pops this logical, perfectly rational answer.
That's the dream, yeah.
Right. And we base our entire society, our economic systems, our legal structures on this assumption that humans generally act in their own best interest.
Traditional economics leans heavily on that exact model.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's this assumption of a perfectly calibrated machine navigating the world.
Yeah.
It's that old Shakespearean ideal from Hamlet, What a piece of work is a man, how noble in reason.
Noble in reason, exactly.
The standard model assumes we compute the absolute value of all our options and then simply walk the best possible path.
But then you actually look at how we behave in the real world, how we spend our money, how we date, how we manage our time. And that calculator seems completely broken.
Oh, completely.
We're making decisions that look, from the outside, totally absurd. And that is the mission for today's deep dive. We are revisiting a really foundational text in behavioral economics, Dan Ariely's Predictably Irrational.
Such a great book.
It really is. And even if you follow the field and know the basics, diving back into these sources reveals a crucial reality for all of us. Our mistakes aren't just random glitches or, moments of temporary stupidity. They are highly systematic.
They are wired into the hardware. Behavioral economics maps out how we consistently fall short of that rational ideal.
Yeah.
We deviate from laws the exact same ways over and over again, regardless of our intelligence or education level.
Which is wild to think about.
It is. But the utility here is massive. When you map out the specific mechanisms of these cognitive blind spots, you can actually anticipate them.
Right, you can plan for them.
Exactly. You stop fighting human nature and start designing better environments for yourself, both personally and professionally.
So to get to that point, we have to start at the absolute foundation of decision-making, which is how we judge value. Because the sources make it incredibly clear that we almost never evaluate things in a vacuum.
No, never.
We don't have like an internal app that just scans an item and tells us its absolute objective worth.
We rely almost entirely on context. I mean, without a comparison point, we are essentially flying blind.
Yeah.
Our brains are constantly looking for cognitive shortcuts just to save energy, and relative comparison is one of the easiest shortcuts available.
Which brings us to the Economist magazine subscription experiment.
Oh, this is a classic.
It really is. It's such a brilliant distillation of that shortcut. So the researchers looked at a real ad that offered three choices.
Right.
There was an internet-only subscription for $59, a print-only subscription for $125, and a print and internet combo subscription for $125.
Yeah, notice the pricing structure there. The combo is the exact same price as the print-only option.
Yeah, right out of the gate, the print-only option seems ridiculous.
Totally.
So they presented these three options to 100 students at MIT's Sloan School of Management, and the data played out exactly how you'd expect on the surface. 84 of the students chose the $125 combo.
Makes sense.
16 chose the $59 internet-only option, and absolutely zero chose the $125 print-only option.
Right, because it looks like a useless option. If no one buys it, a traditional economist would tell you to just remove it from the menu because it's inefficient.
So the researchers did exactly that. They ran the experiment again, but this time removing the quote-unquote useless print-only option.
Okay.
Now the students just had to choose between the internet-only at $59 and the combo at $125. Since the option that got 0 votes was gone, the results shouldn't change, right?
You would think.
But they completely flipped. 68 students chose internet only, and only 32 chose the combo. Okay, let's unpack this. The mere presence of an option nobody wanted drastically changed how people spent their money.
And that is the mechanism of the decoy effect.
Yeah.
When you remove the decoy, that print-only option, the students actually have to do the hard cognitive work of comparing the $59 web access against $125 for print and web.
They have to actually think about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They have to ask themselves, do I read enough print to justify spending an extra $66?
Right.
That is a difficult, abstract calculation. But when the decoy is there, the brain doesn't have to do that hard math.
Because the comparison becomes incredibly simple. You look at print for $125 and print plus web for $125.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know what the web access is objectively worth, you know for a fact it's better than getting nothing extra for the same price.
It makes the combo look like an absolute steal.
It's like going to buy a TV. You stand in the electronics aisle, you're totally overwhelmed, you have no idea what a screen is actually worth.
Oh, I hate that feeling.
Right. And the salesperson puts a $1,480 TV next to a $690 TV and $850 TV. Suddenly, that $851 feels like the safe, smart, middle choice.
Yes. The expensive one acts as an anchor. It's a decoy to make you feel comfortable spending the $850.
Exactly.
The decoy creates a localized illusion of certainty. We are so desperate to feel confident in our choices that we will latch onto any relative comparison that hands us an easy win.
Even if it leads us to spend more money than we originally intended.
Precisely.
So we're constantly outsourcing our valuation to these relative comparisons. But the sources show that this relative system completely short-circuits the moment you introduce a very specific number.
Or, well, more accurately, the absence of a number.
Right. Let's look at what happens when things become free.
The chocolate experiment perfectly illustrates the breakdown of standard cost-benefit analysis here.
It really does. So researchers set up a table offering two kinds of chocolate. Lindt truffles, which are high-quality, premium chocolates, and Hershey's Kisses, which are fine, but, standard, everyday candy.
Right.
They priced the Lindt truffle at 15 cents and the Hershey's Kiss at 1 cent. At those prices, the participants acted as rational value maximizers.
They weighed the premium quality against a slightly higher cost.
Yeah, and 73% of people bought the Lindt truffle.
Because 15 cents for a Lindt truffle is a great deal.
It's a steal. But then researchers dropped the price of both chocolates by exactly 1 cent. The Lindt truffle became 14 cents and the Hershey's Kiss became free.
And everything changed.
Suddenly, 69% of people abandoned the premium chocolate and chose the Hershey's Kiss.
They willingly gave up a fantastic deal on a luxury truffle just to get an ordinary piece of chocolate for nothing.
But hold on, let me play devil's advocate for a second here.
Go for it.
If my goal is to maximize my resources, taking free stuff is literally spending zero money. From a purely mathematical standpoint, isn't minimizing my cost to zero the most rational thing I can do? Why do behavioral economists view this as a mistake?
It looks rational until you calculate the lost value. Getting a premium truffle for 14 cents is a vastly better value proposition than getting a basic candy for free.
Oh, I see.
The mistake lies in how our brains process the concept of zero. The zero price effect dictates that zero is not just another price point on a continuum.
It's something else entirely.
Right, it operates in a completely different psychological category because it neutralizes our innate loss aversion.
Loss aversion being our evolutionary tendency to feel the pain of a loss much more acutely than the joy of an equivalent gain.
Exactly. From an evolutionary perspective, losing resources like food, shelter, energy, that was a direct threat to survival.
Right.
So our brains treat any expenditure, even 14 cents, as a potential risk. What if the truffle is stale? What if I need those 14 cents later?
The brain is just sounding the alarm.
Yes. But the moment a price tag drops to zero, that evolutionary alarm bell just turns off. There is no downside. Free feels like a guaranteed win, a completely risk-free transaction.
And that emotional relief is so powerful, it overwhelms our ability to accurately assess the actual value of what we are getting.
We just get blinded by the thrill of zero risk.
And companies completely weaponize this. I mean, the Amazon France example from the sources is staggering.
Oh, they're the perfect example.
Amazon introduced a free shipping program for orders over a certain amount. Everywhere in the world, sales jumped when the program launched. But in France, the shipping wasn't totally free. It was accidentally bundled to cost just 1 franc, which is roughly 20 cents.
Right.
To a rational consumer buying a large order of books, 20 cents is essentially a rounding error. It shouldn't impact the decision. But at 1 franc, sales in France didn't budge.
Because the friction was still there. The risk, however microscopic, remained.
But when Amazon realized the error and dropped that tiny 20-cent fee to zero, making shipping truly free sales in France immediately skyrocketed to match the rest of the world.
Just to save 20 cents.
Just to save 20 cents. That emotional surge of zero is wildly powerful. But it creates a fascinating paradox, right?
How so?
Well, taking money out of a transaction triggers this massive excitement. But if you try to bring money into a completely free social situation, it triggers a total meltdown.
Oh, absolutely.
Uh,
Because you are crossing a very delicate boundary between two incompatible operating systems.
let's set the scene with the Thanksgiving example.
This one makes me cringe just thinking about it.
Right. You're at your mother-in-law's house for an elaborate, beautiful holiday dinner. She has spent 3 days cooking. The turkey is perfect. The house looks great. The effort is just obvious.
Okay.
At the end of the meal, you are so incredibly grateful that you pull out your wallet and sincerely offer her $300 in cash for all her hard work.
That is going to be the most uncomfortable room on the planet.
Total catastrophe. The music stops, people gasp, you probably aren't invited back. So what does this all mean? The economic value of $300 is highly positive, yet the reaction is overwhelmingly negative.
It exposes the fact that human society operates on two distinct parallel tracks: social norms and market norms.
Okay, social norms?
Social norms are the rules of our evolutionary tribe. They are community-driven, warm, fuzzy, and based on long-term reciprocity.
Right.
If I help you move a heavy couch, I don't expect you to hand me a $20 bill at the door. The reward is the strengthening of the social bond.
I buy you pizza next time.
Exactly. Market norms are entirely different. They are sharp-edged, transactional, and demand immediate equal compensation. They govern wages, rents, prices, and cost-benefit analyses.
So by offering cash at Thanksgiving, I am dragging a market norm into a purely social space.
Yes.
I'm effectively treating my mother-in-law like a hired caterer.
Which devalues the emotional labor she put into the dinner. The social contract was built on familial love. Offering cash reframes her effort as cheap wage labor. It is deeply insulting to the relationship.
But what if I want to show tangible appreciation without, detonating the relationship? What if instead of cash, I bring a highly rated $60 bottle of wine to the dinner? Is that violating the norm?
No,
Yeah.
because a gift functions as a bridge. It remains safely within the realm of social norms because it doesn't carry an explicit hard-coded transactional value in the moment of exchange.
Right. It's just a nice gesture.
It shows effort and appreciation without demanding a ledger entry. However, there is a trap here.
Okay.
If you hand over the wine and explicitly state, "I brought this wine, it cost me $60, you immediately destroy the bridge.
Ouch.
You've
Yeah.
introduced a hard number, pulling the interaction right back into the rigid world of market norms.
You force the other person to calculate the value of the relationship.
And once that calculation starts, the warmth evaporates. The danger here, as the sources emphasize, is that market norms are incredibly corrosive to social norms,
Yeah.
and the damage is usually permanent. If we connect this to the bigger picture, look at the famous behavioral experiment conducted at an Israeli daycare.
Oh, the fine for being late.
Exactly. The daycare had a problem with parents occasionally arriving late to pick up their kids, forcing the teachers to stay after hours. To curb this, the administrators introduced a monetary fine for tardiness.
Which, from a purely market perspective, makes perfect sense. You penalize the behavior you want to discourage.
But human behavior isn't just driven by market logic. Before the fine, parents generally try to be on time because they felt guilty about making the teachers wait.
Right. Guilt.
Guilt is a powerful, open-ended social norm. You don't want to be the bad member of the tribe. But the introduction of the monetary fine replaced that open-ended guilt with a specific transaction. The parents subconsciously realized, oh, I no longer have to feel bad. I am simply purchasing extra childcare hours.
The guilt was completely absolved by the fee, so tardiness actually increased.
It skyrocketed. The market norm offered a much easier psychological out than the social norm of guilt. And here's the truly vital takeaway. When the daycare administrators realized the fine was backfiring and removed it, the parents didn't revert to their previous behavior.
Tardiness stayed high
Stay high.
because the social norm was already dead.
Exactly.
You can't put the genie back in the bottle. Once you tell someone that their relationship to you is transactional, you can't easily convince them to go back to caring about your feelings.
Nearly impossible.
It shows how incredibly averse we are to closing off options or making permanent changes to our relationships. And honestly, that aversion to finality spills over into how we handle our own personal choices, too.
Oh, we are practically paralyzed by the fear of closing doors. We hate making irreversible decisions.
This is perfectly captured by the MIT door game. Researchers had participants sit at a computer showing 3 digital doors, a red one, a blue one, and a green one. They were given a finite number of clicks, let's say 100. Clicking into a room behind a door earned them a small monetary payout.
Right?
They could spend clicks staying in one room to accumulate cash, or spend a click moving to a different room to see if it offered a better payout rate.
It's an exploration versus exploitation problem.
Yeah.
You sample the options, find the one with the highest yield, and then exploit it by staying there to maximize your returns.
That is the logical strategy. But here's where it gets really interesting. The researchers added a twist. If a door wasn't clicked within a certain number of turns, it began to shrink, and eventually it would disappear from the screen permanently.
If you didn't dedicate some of your clicks to interacting with a room, that option was gone forever.
It simulates the decay of opportunity in real life.
Exactly. Friendships fade if you don't call. Career paths vanish if you don't pursue the prerequisites.
It's the ultimate digital representation of modern FOMO. Like, this feels like scrolling through Netflix for 45 minutes. You don't want to commit to a sci-fi movie because you might miss out on a great comedy.
Right.
And you don't want to commit to the comedy because what if there's a better documentary? Eventually, it's midnight, you're exhausted, and you haven't watched anything. You burned all your time just preserving your options.
And the data from the door game reflects that exact paralysis. Participants could not tolerate the sight of a shrinking door.
Even when it cost them.
Even after they had successfully mapped out the game and found the room with the highest payout, the mere visual of another door getting smaller triggered intense anxiety.
Wow.
They would abandon the high payout room, wasting valuable clicks just to go touch the shrinking door and keep it alive.
They were just frenetically running between rooms to keep the options open, burning their limited resources.
And it cost them dearly. By refusing to let the inferior options die, participants ended up with 15% less money than if they had simply committed to the best-paying room and ignored the disappearing doors.
15% is a huge drop.
It is. We have a profound evolutionary urge to hoard options, but we are completely blind to the opportunity cost of that hoarding. Every ounce of energy spent keeping a useless door open is energy drained from walking through the right one and actually building something.
We spend our lives terrified of missing out on external options, constantly surveying the landscape. But while our attention is entirely focused outward, our internal landscape, specifically our preconceived expectations, is silently pulling the strings of our reality.
Expectations are not just passive filters. The research shows they are active architects of our sensory experience.
The most visceral example of this is the Muddy Charles pub experiment at MIT.
Oh, the beer tasting.
Yeah. Researchers set up a blind taste test offering students a standard commercial beer and a custom concoction they called MIT Brew. The secret ingredient in the MIT Brew was a couple of drops of balsamic vinegar.
Which, balsamic vinegar in beer sounds objectively terrible.
It does. I would never drink that. But the findings were astonishing. When the students weren't told about the vinegar, when it was a pure blind taste test, they actually preferred the MIT Brew.
Wow.
The vinegar added a complex, tangy flavor profile that won the taste test. However, if the researchers told the students beforehand that the beer contained balsamic vinegar, the reaction completely reversed.
They hated it.
They wrinkled their noses, gagged, and overwhelmingly rejected it in favor of the standard commercial beer. But wait, let me push back on the interpretation here.
Okay.
Are we sure they are actually experiencing a different taste? Or is it just social compliance? Like, if a guy in a lab coat tells you there's salad dressing in your beer, you might just pretend to think it's gross because you think that's the normal expected reaction.
That's a crucial distinction. Are they lying to conform? Or is their physical reality actually changing? Well, the evidence strongly points to the latter. To understand the mechanism, behavioral economists look at functional MRI studies, which is a technology that tracks blood flow in the brain in real time.
So you can see exactly which neural circuits are lighting up.
Exactly. In a famous fMRI study comparing Coke and Pepsi, researchers found that when people tasted the drinks blind, the basic reward centers of the brain lit up.
Okay.
The brain was simply processing the chemical data on the tongue.
The bottom-up sensory data.
Yes. But when the participants were told which brand they were drinking before they took a sip, a completely different part of the brain fired up, the medial prefrontal cortex.
Which does what?
It's involved in higher-order cognition, memories, and associations. The brain pulled up all the marketing, the childhood memories, the brand identity, and used that data to literally modify the sensory processing. The expectation of the brand changed the physical firing of the neurons.
That is insane. So the brain is essentially pre-rendering the experience based on what it expects to happen. The MIT students didn't just act grossed out by the vinegar because they expected it to be awful. Their brains' top-down processing overrode the tongue's bottom-up signals, making the beer physically taste awful.
Our brains use expectations to build our reality before the sensory data even arrives.
Right.
And if we connect this to the broader world, the implications are staggering.
Yeah.
It explains the placebo effect in medicine, why a patient told they are receiving a powerful, expensive painkiller actually experiences a physical reduction in pain, even if the pill is just sugar.
The expectation of relief commands the brain to literally turn down the pain receptors.
Yes. And on a more societal level, it completely explains why political or cultural conflicts feel so intractable.
Oh, interesting.
You have two sides looking at the exact same event, the exact same piece of data. But because their deeply ingrained expectations, their historical anchors are entirely different, their brains construct two completely different realities.
They aren't just being stubborn, they are literally experiencing a different truth.
Which is why presenting raw facts rarely changes someone's mind. You are fighting against their brain's pre-rendered reality.
It really forces you to reconsider how much of your worldview is objective and how much is just a heavily filtered projection.
It does.
When we step back and look at the whole picture we've covered today, the depth of our predictable irrationality is humbling.
Truly.
We saw how a completely useless decoy option can manipulate our sense of absolute value. We looked at the evolutionary mechanisms that make us abandon rational math the moment a price tag hits zero.
The power of free.
Right. We explored the invisible, volatile border between the warm world of social norms and the cold reality of market transactions. We quantified the massive opportunity cost of refusing to let our digital and literal doors close. And finally, we saw how our preconceived expectations can physically rewrite the sensory data hitting our brains.
It sounds daunting, I know, but recognizing these systemic flaws is the only way to manage them.
Yeah.
We are not perfectly rational calculators. We are biological creatures running outdated evolutionary software in a modern world.
Beautifully put.
But by understanding these mechanisms, we can implement safeguards, we can set pre-commitments, we can intentionally close distracting doors, and we can force ourselves to question the anchors that dictate our values.
We can engineer our environments to protect us from our own predictable impulses.
Exactly.
It's about designing a life that accounts for the funhouse mirror rather than pretending the glass is perfectly flat.
I love that.
So as you head out and navigate your day, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. If our daily choices, our spending habits, and even our sensory experiences are so easily swayed by invisible decoys, zero-cost traps, and arbitrary expectations, how much of what you call your personality and your unique tastes is actually intrinsically yours?
Oh, wow.
Right. And how much is just the lingering echo of a random anchor you bumped into years ago? Are you really making choices, or are you just predictably following the path of least resistance? Something to think about. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.